Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad to see you. My name is Renee Laws, and I'm from District 7610, and I'm the Zone 33 Calgary Convention Promotions Chair. And my buddy, Dawn, is here. She's representing, she's in Zone 33, but she's helping with Zone 34. So we just decided to pair up and do this together because it's way more fun when you do stuff together. So this is the first that we've tried to do something like this. So we're new. This is a new idea to kind of do like these little webinars leading up to our Calgary event. So give us feedback, give us grace, and save your questions until the end, just in case Jamie ends up covering what it is you're about to ask. And then at the end, I think we could have a real hearty discussion with some of our more seasoned folks. And maybe you guys could let us know at the end of this, what is it you'd like to see next? Because we'll do a couple more of these before we all go to Calgary. And the idea is that we're sharing with you maybe some valuable information, insider stuff, insights that you don't have, and also giving you information that just isn't provided to the general public for this. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over. Today with us, we have Jamie Larunas, who's with District 7610. Yahoo! And he's a big specialist in this field, and I'll let him explain his bio to you because I'll get it wrong. But thank you for being here, and Jamie, thank you for presenting. I now turn it over to you.
Yep. Let's see. Hopefully you can see that. Is it going? You got it. Okay, cool. Good evening, everyone. So as Renee said, my name is Jamie Larunas. I have the pleasure of being in Renee's club. I'm from the Rotary Club of Stafford in Stafford, Virginia. It's about 45 minutes south of Washington, D.C., just north of Fredericksburg, if you know where that is. And Renee asked me to be on this evening to talk about travel tips in relation to the 2025 Calgary Convention. So I'll give you a little bit of a background about myself. Hopefully you can sort of trust me after this. I'm currently the president of the Rotary Club of Stafford. I'm an assistant governor in 7610, and I'm the chief of staff for one of our incoming district governors. But as far as the travel stuff goes, I write about frequent flyer miles, points, and credit cards for upgradedpoints.com. I've written for a number of publications out there, but that's currently who I write for. I've been on CNN, ABC, Fox, BBC, all sorts of major media outlets with interviews. Been in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and Washington Post, LA Times, all sorts of print media. And I also help organize an event called the Loyalty Summit, Frequent Traveler University, and other events revolving around the frequent traveler space. So most of my background is in loyalty programs, redeeming frequent flyer miles, earning frequent flyer miles, and helping people travel for cheap. Just to kind of set this up, I do not like paying cash for things. I want to travel on the cheap. I want to go to different places, but I don't want to spend a lot of money. And I'm hoping most of you guys are in the same boat. And so that's kind of where my background lies, is trying to get all across the world for not a lot of money. Fortunately, this upcoming convention is in Calgary, so I know everybody on this Zoom is from zones 33 and 34. Fortunately, this is kind of an easier convention for getting there and accessibility and hotels and that kind of thing. When we talk about conventions like Singapore or those farther conventions, Melbourne, that kind of thing, it adds a little bit more complexity because those are much farther from zone 33 and 34. So the flights are different, the routings are different, redeeming miles and earning points and that kind of stuff is different. So we're sort of in home turf here, with it being a local-ish convention. So if I know everyone, may kind of zone out here at some point, but if you take nothing from this presentation, book now. And you'll see it says now in capital letters, like yesterday, do not wait. I know a number of hotels are already sold out. A number of flights are already sold out. There is still plenty of stuff available, but book now. This is not something you want to sit on. If you kind of think just conceptually here, right, you've got 10, 15,000 people converging on one city over one specific pair of dates. things are going to fill. Planes are going to fill, hotels are going to fill. Just kind of use a little bit of common sense. And so the longer you wait, the longer it takes, prices will go up, rooms will fill, planes will fill, and it's not going to be a happy spot if that kind of stuff sells out right from under you. So book now, book now, book now. So I want to start here by going through the hotel situation in Calgary. We're going to talk about airlines. We're going to talk a little bit about credit cards and some ways that you can save on getting to Calgary. And then hopefully at the end here, once I'm done this slide deck, we're going to go through a few little live bookings so you can see current real-time inventory and what's out there as of this very second. So when we talk about going to Calgary and saving money, one of the easiest way to do so is with hotel points. Most of you on this Zoom probably have some sort of Hilton account, Marriott account. I know Dawn was chatting before we went live here. She's a Marriott Titanium, so I'm sure she's got a boatload of points with Marriott. Hopefully everyone here has some sort of an account with some sort of major brand. What a lot of people don't know is that Hilton and Marriott have a program where if you redeem points for 5 nights at a hotel, you will get the 5th night free. So that's a real easy way to save because the convention lasts over a period of 5 days where you're going to want to spend at least 5 nights there, both pre and kind of post convention. And so that reduces the amount of miles, reduces the amount of points that you need for those stays. There's a number of Hiltons in the downtown area. There's a number of Marriotts in the downtown area. And so I would say if you start nowhere else, Hilton and Marriott are kind of your go-tos here for Calgary. They have the most amount of properties in the downtown area. For Hilton, if you don't have Hilton points, you may have American Express membership rewards points. So some of you may have a platinum card or a gold card or a green card or one of the business versions of those cards. City thank you points will also transfer over into Hilton. And then if you are looking to get Marriott points, those can come from American Express membership rewards and Chase Ultimate rewards. So no matter which kind of card that you have, hopefully your points there will be able to transfer to either Hilton and Marriott. If you don't have one of those points currencies, I'll touch on at the very end of the slide deck how you may be able to accumulate some of those points pretty easily. If you think here, right, you've got all these people, 10, 15,000 folks converging on this city, rates are going to be high. There's no secret about that, especially if you want to be in the downtown area, especially if you want to be walkable to the convention center, walkable to the arena. Those hotels will get a pretty penny for those rates. If there's a standard room available, most hotel chains will offer that on points. And so even if that rate at that hotel is $500, $600, $700, which is not uncommon based upon the rates that I've seen, you can easily negate that with a fraction of the cost or no cost by redeeming points. Similarly to Hilton and Marriott, IHG Hotels has a program where if you buy 4 nights, you will get the 4th night free. So you can sort of mix and match here, depending on which program works best for you, which currency you have as far as hotel points, to kind of make the most of that. For IHG points, you can transfer those in from Chase, and you can also transfer those in from Bilt. That's a relatively new rewards program that primarily rewards points based upon rent, but you can also earn it on dining and travel. It's a separate credit card. So those are kind of the best ways to save money here on points. And if you have questions, by the way, I think I see some stuff in the chat. I'm going to touch on that at the very, very end once we get through. So if you don't have points and you just want to spend cash or that's all that you have, here's a few ways that you can save on that. So staying near Calgary Airport can save you a substantial amount of money. Calgary Airport is right outside of the city. You will have to drive into the city. You will have to Uber, or some of the hotels have a shuttle service, or Rotary is providing that if you book through their hotels. But if you're willing to kind of be just a little bit outside of the city, that can drop drop the rates substantially by staying over at the airport. Obviously, there is a convenience factor in staying downtown. You can be walkable to stuff. You can go to a few sessions, come back to get changed. You can, especially for some of the events that require maybe a more formal dress, you can go back to your hotel, take a shower, that kind of thing, and then go back out for dinner or whatever the event is. So certainly it is better to stay downtown, but it might be a trade-off that you might be willing to save a lot of money by staying out by the airport. If you are staying by the airport, those shuttles will run, some of them frequently, some of them not so much. And so you may want to plan when you're coming to the convention to bring most of your stuff in a backpack, have a plan to change if you need to downtown, and that kind of thing, because it may not be as easy to get back and forth. But again, you do save quite a bit of money. Using corporate or negotiated rates, including the government rate, AAA, depending on what company you work for. You may work for IBM, you may work for Microsoft, you may work for Amazon. I know we've got folks on here from all sorts of different backgrounds. Check with your company, check if they offer a negotiated rate to save on hotels. Those rates can drop by hundreds of dollars simply by using whoever your employer is to get those negotiated rates. Some hotel brands will also offer the capability to use points in cash. So if you don't have enough points or you don't want to spend a whole ton of cash, you can combine the two, kind of the best of both worlds. You use about half the amount of points, give or take, half the amount of cash for what the normal cash rate is, and you will be able to book some of those nights. I will say that is a little bit harder to do based upon the current inventory that's out there. Hotels tend to reduce that availability because it is kind of popular, and most of the options right now are kind of drained with the points and cash availability. That's not to say it won't appear. One thing I will mention that's not in this deck is I mentioned before to book now, because stuff will sell out. Well, there is kind of an opposite to that. As we get closer to the convention, kind of in that May, early June timeframe into middle of June, you will start to see stuff open back up as room blocks start to be released, as people tend to cancel at the last minute, whether it's due to health or their job or whatever it is. Those hotels will start to open up that inventory. And so it is very likely that even if you don't see a room at a particular hotel available now, that hotel will become available later on, which I will talk about how to sort of find that, or how to use certain websites to find that. So don't panic if your favorite hotel is not available right now. Chances are it will become available later on. If you have a Chase card, if you have an Amex card, a Citi card, Capital One, pretty much every major bank, those banks all have portals to book travel in. Not only can you earn extra points for booking through those portals, but you also can redeem points through your credit card to offset the cost of the rooms. Generally, that is not the best value. Your better value is to take those points and transfer them to an actual hotel program, such as Hyatt, such as Marriott, such as Hilton, but you also can book cash rates through your credit card company and offset that with the points that you have in there. Sometimes you will be able to get a better deal booking that way. Sometimes you'll also be able to get certain perks such as free breakfast, complimentary upgrades. Some hotels offer, let's say, $100 on-site credit just for booking through your credit card companies. So reach out to them, see what's on offer, and that may be another way to grab a room. Those companies also, depending on the hotel, depending on the city, some of that inventory is held back for those banks. And so even if you don't see your hotel available publicly or through Rotary, your bank, your credit card company may be holding some of that inventory back for their card members. So there's this common misnomer that's out there right now that everything is sold out, there's no rooms left. That is not true. There is still stuff, but you are going to need to be flexible. As I mentioned before, that downtown inner core area, it is kind of hard to find a room in that immediate area around the convention center. I myself, I'm staying at the Hyatt Regency. That hotel sold out, I think, the day after Singapore I was looking, it was pretty much well sold out at that point. So that hotel is pretty much right across from the convention center. So you are going to need to be a little bit flexible if you haven't booked. But as I mentioned, some of these rooms can open back up. So that available near the airport is plentiful. There are plenty of hotels near that airport area. Again, you just have to be willing to take that shuttle to and from. Going down here, you'll see a website that I commented there with, openhotelalert.com. That's a completely free website. You can create an account on there. You can choose a particular hotel that you want to stay at, and it will alert you if a standard room or any room becomes available. So let's say, for example, that Hyatt that's now sold out, the Hyatt Regency Calgary across from the convention center. If I go to openhotelalert.com, I can type in the Hyatt Regency Calgary. I can say, hey, alert me to any type of room, or I can be more specific. I can say, listen, alert me if there's a king room that opens, if there's 2 queen beds that opens, if there's a suite that opens, whatever my room preference is. And it will then email me and text me, depending on the preferences that you put in there, as soon as that hotel opens that availability. Don't be surprised if that happens again until much later on. The chances that that's going to happen in the immediate future, it's kind of slim. You're more looking towards the May, June timeframe for that kind of thing. But remember, stuff happens. People will cancel. There's also folks that are just visiting Calgary. They've got nothing to do with the convention. Their plans may change. Business traveler plans often change. And so those rooms are going to come and go. So rather than going to Marriott's website, Hilton's website, Hyatt, whatever the chain is, or even independent hotels, this site will alert you without you having to do that legwork every day. Rotary's booking partner Marriott's has additional room blocks. Generally, you will not earn miles and points on these rates or be able to take advantage of elite benefits. That is considered booking through a third party. But if you can't find a room publicly, you can book it through Rotary International. You just will forego any elite benefits that you have, or any additional perks that you might be able to get, such as earning miles and points. Again, that's a trade-off that you're going to have to consider. If that has a room, but the public website does not, you may be willing to forego those benefits to have a better room downtown, or you may want those benefits and are willing to, pay a higher rate or willing to wait until closer in to see if those rooms open up. If you have elite status with a particular hotel chain, you can take advantage of guaranteed availability in some cases. And keep in mind, you may have elite status without really ever staying in any hotel over the course of a year. So there are credit cards that come with elite status up front, such as the American Express Platinum card comes with Hilton Gold status without you having to do anything. It also comes with Marriott status. There's also an American Express Aspire card, which comes with Diamond status simply for holding the card. So you do not need to stay in any hotels to get that status. You simply need to be a card member, and you can sort of bypass the availability restrictions and book into what's called guaranteed availability. Those hotel chains will allow those members to have a guaranteed room available. You are going to have to pay for it, and you're going to have to pay a pretty penny for it. But if you are kind of not flexible or you want a particular hotel, getting elite status is one of the easiest ways to be able to sort of circumvent that if you are willing to pay for it. So here's some general tips that I've put in here about booking hotels. I am not a fan of Airbnbs, and I know there are plenty of people out there that are, or home share programs. This is my opinion. You can sort of take it or leave it if you want. Those programs are notorious for last-minute cancellations. That could be because the person renting the Airbnb finds another buyer that's willing to pay more. They can claim that there's a maintenance issue. They can claim that there's whatever. Generally, during periods of high demand, a lot of these owners, a lot of these sellers will try to play games. There's kind of no secret behind that. And so when they know Calgary is sold out, which it will be, and there's people willing to pay a lot of money, they may play games and and say, listen, my unit that I rented to you is no longer available. I'm going to instead rent it to someone else for a higher price. And so I would highly suggest avoiding that. We've had issues even just in our own district, in District 7610, at Airbnbs literally in the middle of nowhere. We are not talking Calgary by any means. Those Airbnbs have canceled at the last second for our district governors doing visits, and they're sort of stuck having to find another option. And that's in a remote area. So I would highly suggest avoiding those options. If for some reason you are a diehard Airbnb fan or a home sharing person, I would suggest booking it, but then having a refundable hotel option as a backup that you can cancel either in the days prior or once you get on site so you know that you're checked in. Major chains provide elite benefits, breakfast, and other perks. Consider this with the total cost of the room. So you're going to have to do a cost comparison to what's out there. But if your particular hotel chain is offering breakfast and another one is not, it may be worth paying a little bit more. It may be worth it for additional upgrades, additional perks. Some brands offer upgrades at the time of booking. And especially with this being a high demand period, I would highly suggest the next bullet point there, book the room you want. The reason I say that is we're all traveling as districts or clubs. Some of us are going to want to host socials. Some of us are going to want to have friends over, other Rotarians over to socialize or meet or plan or whatever we're doing. Don't book a king room expecting you're going to be upgraded to a suite. The chances of that happening are kind of slim to none because there are other people booking those suites, booking those preferred rooms, booking those corner rooms. Book the room that you want. And that way you're guaranteed that space, especially if you plan on having people over, socializing, that kind of thing. I took a look at the rates kind of both through RI and just general public rates. If you can find a hotel that's less than $300 a night, that's pretty reasonable. So I would book it. So if you're kind of wondering my opinion about rates, should I wait? Should I not wait? If it's in the 300-ish range, I would book it right now because that's kind of the low end for decent hotels in the city. I'm not talking about super, super cheap, no frills hotels, but for a generic, kind of mid-level hotel that most of us are going to want to stay in, 300 is kind of on the low end for good rates. And if you see that, I would highly suggest booking it. Some hotels in the city do have clubs in their hotels. That's another way you can easily save on money. Those clubs will offer usually a full breakfast and then also evening hors d'oeuvres, sometimes alcohol, sometimes afternoon options. While it's certainly, preferred that you go out and experience the city and be a foodie and go out with folks, I know many people are trying to save money, trying to do this on a budget. And so if you can access those clubs at the hotels, that's an easy way to save a considerable amount of money over the course of your stay. And I've mentioned this many times, hotels within walking distance of the convention center and stadium will be at a premium. So shifting gears here a little bit to flights. And again, if you've got hotel questions, we'll take those in a minute. I'll look in the chat. So I went through Calgary's airport and looked at all of the nonstop flights to the U.S. This presentation is geared towards folks in Zone 33 and 34. I don't know if we've got anybody else that happened to get in, but these are all of the nonstop flights to the United States. So Air Canada has a nonstop flight to Newark, especially folks that are kind of in that DC-ish area. It's pretty easy to get to Newark. Even south of that, you can take the Amtrak there. And so if you're looking for kind of an easier way to get to Calgary, you may want to take the train up to Newark Airport. There is an airport station, get off, and then you've got that nonstop Air Canada flight directly to Calgary. Alaska Airlines has a flight from Seattle. They run several regional jets a day from Seattle. It's about a 300-mile flight, so you are overshooting it a little bit. You may want to come in, let's say, the night before, kind of get adjusted to the time zone, and then the next day you can fly that 300 miles east towards Calgary. American Airlines has 2 daily flights to Dallas. There is a Charlotte flight on Saturday only. That's not going to be as useful because the convention starts on a Saturday, so I'd kind of avoid that. There's also a daily flight to Chicago as well. Those are on mainline jets. They're not regional jets. Those are 737s or similar aircraft. Delta also runs to Minneapolis and Salt Lake City. Flair, which is a low-cost airline for Canada, runs to Las Vegas and Phoenix. That's not going to be as useful for the folks on the East Coast because you'd have to get to one of those cities and then go up, and the cost savings just isn't going to be there to do that. So I would sort of discredit both of those options. United has a Chicago, Denver, Houston, San Francisco, LA, and Washington Dulles flight. Since I know most folks here are on the East Coast, the Dulles flight does not start until the week after the convention. And that's primarily meant to get folks out to the Stampede. And that's kind of why that's timed after the convention. So all those other options, you are going to have to transit through one of those other hubs to get up to Calgary. WestJet is the dominant carrier out in Calgary. It is a low-cost airline. It is a affiliate for Delta Airlines, so you can buy a ticket on WestJet through Delta, which I'll talk about in a second. They run Boston, Honolulu, Houston, Kahului, which is Maui, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Minneapolis, New York, JFK, Orange County, Orlando, Palm Springs, Phoenix, San Diego, San Francisco, Seattle, Austin, Chicago, Denver, Detroit, Nashville, Tampa, and Washington Dulles. So obviously you've got a few of those cities on the East Coast. Some of those cities, they only run to 2 or 3 times a week. So the Dulles flight, for example, right near me, only runs a few days a week. So you may have to be a little bit flexible on when you leave if you prefer that nonstop flight. Otherwise, it is very easy to get to Calgary. One thing I will sort of emphasize to folks here, that there are only so many seats going into Calgary a day. And I mentioned it before, there's 10, 15, hopefully more than that, 1,000 people flying in. There is only so many seats that are going to be out of these cities. And that's why I say book now. If you need to adjust something later, you certainly can. Some of these airlines will only fly regional jets into Calgary. For example, Alaska Airlines only flies an ERJ 175, which is just a smaller version of a mainline plane, but it is a regional jet, so it only has so many seats on there. And so capacity is going to be a little bit limited depending on the city that you're flying out of or the airline that you're flying out of. So when we talk about using miles to fly to Calgary, there is very little, that should say saver, I apologize, saver availability right now. So if you are looking for the lowest possible mileage, it's kind of slim right now. And that's not uncommon. That really has nothing to do with the Rotary convention. I can assure you that no one is sitting in Americans' headquarters down in Dallas that knows about this convention that's purposely blocking space. That just doesn't happen. You just have to remember that that part of the world, Calgary and the surrounding area, is a hot spot for tourism over that season. And so that's why we sort of see that reduced saver availability. So if you need to use miles, you want to use miles, you are going to have to pay a little bit more, which is usually referred to as an anytime rate. Different airlines call it different things, but you probably won't be able to get any saver or low level availability right now. Air Canada Aeroplan, you can book Air Canada and United flights or any Star Alliance carrier using Air Canada. Those miles, they transfer in from American Express and a number of other banks. And so if you're sort of sitting on those bank miles, those bank points, you can transfer those to Air Canada. One of the nice things about Air Canada is they will sell you the last seat on the plane. So even if there is one seat left, you can still use miles to get that seat. You are going to have to pay a lot for it, especially that Newark flight. It is very expensive. That's their nonstop to the U.S., which is primarily meant to connect on United, which has a hub out of Newark. So saver availability won't be there, but you can pay more miles to guarantee a seat. On United Mileage Plus, you can book Air Canada and United on using United miles. Using Delta, you can book on Delta, but you also can book on WestJet. And so WestJet is a partner of Delta. As you saw from that previous slide, they run to a number of cities on the East Coast. And so if you have Delta miles, you should be able to book on WestJet if that space is there. I have seen a decent amount of WestJet space that was there, at least as of a week ago. And so if that's an option for you. American, you can book American Airlines and Alaska Airlines. I will tell you, out of the two of them, you're going to find a lot more availability on Alaska than you will American. However, if you're using American miles to book on American, you can get that last seat inventory just like Air Canada, just like United, just like Delta. When you use it on a partner, you're restricted to the availability that the partner releases. You can also use Alaska miles if you have those to book American and Alaska mile flights. And British Airways, you're probably wondering why I mentioned that in here. British Airways transfers to nearly every major bank currency, and you can use those British Airways miles to book American Airlines and Alaska Airlines. And so if you're wondering, hey, I don't have any of these miles, what are you talking about? Chances are, if you have a bank credit card, whether it's through American Express, whether it's through Chase, any number of these banks, you should be able to transfer to British Airways. That program is listed on a number of the bank programs, so that's kind of a go-to one. One of the downsides about using British Airways is that they charge segment by segment. So for example, me being in DC, there is no nonstop from the DC area to Calgary on either American or Alaska. And so I'm forced to either transit through Dallas, forced to transit through Chicago, and then another flight to Calgary. And you essentially have to pay two awards for that. But it's an option that should be readily available to folks. As far as saving on flights, I would highly suggest arriving before June 17th, which I believe is that Wednesday. Remember, as folks start to arrive closer in, that's the popular time to arrive. If you can arrive on the outskirts of that and depart on the outskirts of that, you are going to save money. Remember, the Calgary Stampede is after the convention. It should be pretty easy to leave the convention, but coming back to Calgary, if you're leaving and coming back, let's say you're doing some sightseeing, it's going to be a little bit difficult because those prices are going to be quite high. So just remember, we do have a huge major event that comes after the convention, and the flight prices and hotels, for that matter, are going to be a little bit wonky. One of the great things about flights is you can buy the flights now and monitor the rates to see if the price goes down. Google Flights is tremendous for this. You can set an alert through Google Flights. You can pick a particular routing, pick a particular airline, and if the price drops or the price gets to a range that you feel comfortable with, it will alert you. And so if you book a flight now, whether it's on Delta, United, American, etc., you can then reprice that flight, reticket it if the price goes down, and you will take the difference as a voucher, which you can just use on your next flight. So hopefully folks will find some sort of time over the next year to use that residual credit if you have it. I didn't list it down on here, but one thing I highly stress to folks, and I know Renee is going to laugh at this, do not book basic economy. If you are trying to price flights out and you're trying to decide, well, basic economy is cheaper, don't book it. It is not worth the hassle. It is not worth the restrictions to book basic economy. I see this error time and time again, and it just gets people into trouble. Spend the extra money. Usually it's not that much of a difference. Maybe 50 bucks, maybe $100, maybe something a little bit more than that. Do not book basic economy. It is punitive. You will not get your money back. It is restrictive, and it is very, very, very hard to manipulate those tickets if you need to cancel or adjust things. Another thing to note, and I didn't put it on the slide there, but if you are purchasing tickets now for Calgary in June, we're quite a few months from that time period. And it is very, very likely that the airline that you're flying with will do a schedule change. It's very normal. It happens to flights all across the world. Those flight times will be adjusted. They adjust flights out of their banks, Chicago, Dallas, Dulles, whatever airport that you're flying out of. And so don't be convinced that the flight you book now is actually the flight that you're going to take, because it's very, very likely that some of those schedules will be adjusted. So if you have a short connection time in any of these hub cities, you may be impacted by that. Just taking a look at airfares, I'm seeing a lot of airfares in that 300-ish range if you're traveling in coach, 700-ish, kind of going up from there if you're traveling in first class or a premium cabin. That's kind of where we're sitting right here at the moment. Flights out of major cities will be cheaper. So if you live in an outlying area, chances are you're going to have to take a regional jet flight out of that secondary city or kind of third tier city to a major city and then fly out of there. So usually it is much cheaper to get yourself to a major city. If you're able to drive, take the train, whatever it is, you usually can find a lot cheaper flights out of a major city. So let's talk here about using credit cards and bonuses. Some of you here are saying, hey, I've got nothing. I don't know what to do here. I really want to go to Calgary and I don't want to pay a lot for it. So I listed four credit cards here. These are the referral links. So if you click on it, you'll get what's the maximum bonus. But in full disclosure, I get something off of that. It's a referral link, and it's the way I can pull it from my account. But if you go to any one of those credit cards, Capital One, Venture X, there's the Marriott Bonvoy Brilliant, Marriott Bonvoy Business, American Express Business. These are some of the highest point bonuses. That's why I selected these cards. That have the highest point bonuses right now on the market. So you can take some of these cards and have nearly enough or more than enough to go to Calgary for free. So if you start with the top one there, Capital One Venture X, that's 75,000 miles. That's approximately $750 if I were to transfer that to straight cash. And so that can easily cover a few hotel nights. That can definitely cover at least a one-way or round trip flight. If you look down at the Marriott Bonvoy Brilliant, that's 185,000 points. That's the highest bonus they've ever offered. That can definitely get you those 5 free nights, especially at one of the airport hotels at Calgary. That Bonvoy business card includes 5 free nights up to 250,000 points. So that gives you a little bit more flexibility, but that's 5 free nights simply for applying for the card and then meeting whatever the minimum spend is. And very similarly there for the business platinum, that's 150,000 membership rewards. So I'm a miles geek. I'm a points geek. When I say, listen, I want to go somewhere and I want to do it for cheap, some of these card offers here, most of these, you can literally travel to Calgary or stay in Calgary for free simply by just obtaining one of these cards. So that's a real easy way if you're kind of starting from nothing. So that's kind of the end of the presentation that I prepared here. I did put my email down at the bottom. It's jlarunas@staffordrotary.org. You're always welcome to email me with questions. I will try to help you as best as I can. And point you in the right direction. But I kind of want to turn it back over here for questions and see what we got.
Yeah, there was actually a few questions specific to air routes, it looked like. Wanted to confirm that you're looking at Calgary International Airport with the, I guess, the designation of CYYC. Someone wanted to just confirm.
YYC is the airport. Yep.
Okay. And then also, if you were familiar with any routes out of Tampa or Orlando or from Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico, there's no nonstop, so you're going to have to connect somewhere. Likely, you'd have to go Puerto Rico, let's say, maybe Miami. You could go Dulles, you can Newark, and then connect onto that Air Canada flight. So there's a few ways to do that. There, Tampa, I believe, if I go back here, I think, hang on. Let's see. I think WestJet had a Tampa flight that's there. So if you're in Tampa, that's an easy one. I think somebody else said Orlando. So there's another nonstop on WestJet out of Orlando. I believe both of those are not daily. They only run a few times a week. Some of these may be Saturday only services as well. So you're just going to have to look at the schedule. If you don't see it on a particular day, what I would recommend doing is just backtracking a day, look at the previous day, look the previous day. Eventually you'll find the flight come up if it only runs a few times a week.
Okay. And someone did mention that it looks like Delta is showing a direct flight from Atlanta to Calgary with WestJet.
With WestJet. Yeah, so if you go on to Delta's website, they'll show it as a code share. It looks like a Delta flight, but it's actually operated by WestJet. I guess did I maybe miss it on the list there? Yeah, I guess I did. So maybe there's an Atlanta flight too.
Okay, so one more airline question, and we'll get to a train journey someone has asked. So what date range and airline are you seeing flight prices in the 300s? And this is from Flora.
So let's do this. So I'm going to end the presentation. Let's go here.
And this is amazingly helpful. Amazingly helpful.
Hopefully everybody can see my screen here. Where was that person from? Do you know?
Flora, where can you unmute and share where you're looking to travel from?
Yes, Maryland. I'm closer to BWI, but I
Okay.
can do Dallas or
Sure,
Macon.
sure.
Go
Okay. So I'm
Flora.
just going to go to United's site here. I'm not preferential to them. I've just got it up on my screen here. So the easiest way, especially if you live in the DC area, sorry, I'm biased because I live here. Always type in the airport code WAS because that'll search BWI, Dulles, and Reagan all at the same time. You don't have to manually search it. So we put in YYC. Let's go out with our booking calendar here. And we're going to select, so the convention starts on the 21st there. So I'd highly recommend kind of arriving in this earlier-ish time frame. So let's say we go with the 17th. Let's say we leave 28th, right? A few days for sightseeing on either end. I don't know these dates. I'm literally doing this live and I don't know what's going to pop up here. Because remember, flight prices vary, they're volatile. Even if I looked an hour ago, the prices may change. So I can't really dictate what's out there. So let's see what pops up here. Just thinking about it. So these prices for the dates I put in there, they're a little bit high. But to give you an example, between that basic economy and economy, we can see that's a $50 difference. That is a no-brainer to do economy over basic economy. So that kind of answers that question. I can filter it by the price. Oop, that's the most expensive. We don't want that. So the cheapest on that particular day out of DC is $652. That's just kind of what it is, plugging it in here. I can be a little bit more flexible with it. So let's say, I think I have Air Canada's site here. Yep, I do. So let's go to Air Canada's site.
And so, Jamie, we're also noticing, or I'm noticing, and I no longer book with third-party sites like Expedia and Travel. Can you explain that just a little bit about why you're going directly to the airline?
Yep. So you never book through Expedia, Travelocity, any one of these websites. Do not book through them. Here's what happens. If there is an issue with the ticket, so let's say at a later point in time, there's a schedule change, there's a cancellation, the airline cancels your flight, delays it, whatever. Oftentimes they will throw it back onto that agency to handle it because it's an agency ticket. At some point, the airline has to take over the ticket. I won't get too in the nitty gritty here, but for the most part, you have to expect Expedia, Travelocity, all of these other websites to service your ticket. They are a pain in the you-know-what. They're offshore call centers. They have no leniency whatsoever. They are dictated by a certain set of policies. You will find the same price going to American, United, Delta, so on and so forth, than you will going through those agencies. So do not book through one of those online travel agencies. It's going to get you into trouble, especially if something happens with your flights. So let's go back here. Whoops.
I've seen a lot of people crying in lines when their flights get canceled because they can't help them right away.
Yes. Nobody cried.
Or they're on the phone with Jamie saying,
yes,
Jamie, help, Jamie.
It's a good thing I didn't have my phone on Do Not Disturb.
When Jamie sees my number come up and knows I'm out of town, he's like,
right, reject the call. So here's Air Canada's site. We'll see what pulls up here. This is again,
oh wow,
17. So somebody was saying, hey, where are all the cheap flights? Here you go. I just found it right here. So this is the 17th. This is on Air Canada. So this is going to go Dulles to Toronto, Toronto to Calgary. That's going to be $198. So let's click that.
Jamie, can you book that for me? Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. We'll put your credit card so everybody can see online. Again, that difference there between basic and standard, it's $25. Do not book basic economy. You can see it right there that it's a marginal difference. Just book it. Most of the airlines will try to get you to sell up with some sort of increased amenities here, so there's no change fee. It's refundable. In most cases, the standard thing is perfectly fine for most folks. So let's see what the return looks like, and hopefully we can stick in the same-ish range. Okay, so on the return, this is where we get a little bit more expensive. So the cheapest, it looks like on the date that I picked, is 404. So you add the 404 to the other one, it's going to be about 600-ish. But if you see on the calendar here, let's say I back up to the 26th, the price is going to drop. because it told me it was going to. So let's see what happens here.
Yeah, and do you, just because you're on around the Washington DC area, someone else had asked about Air Canada from BWI. Is there any kind of like, I guess, is it just preference or is there any benefit?
If I am not mistaken, Air Canada got rid of their BWI to Toronto. Let's see if I'm proven wrong on that, but I believe they either got rid of it or are getting rid of it, and it might not be there in time for the convention. Let's just see, for those that live up in that neck of the woods. Yeah. Let's do it. Yeah, just do it this way.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna throw another one.
Sure.
Someone else asked about clearing your browser every time you search. Does that do
No,
anything?
that's a common misnomer. So let's hang on. Let me just answer the Air Canada question first. Okay, it does look like they still operate it. I'm sorry. I thought they got rid of it. Maybe it's after this time period, but it does look like they have a BWI to Toronto. Clearing your browser, that's not going to do anything. There are misnomers about booking on a certain day of the week, booking in the middle of the night. My recommendation is if you see something and it looks tolerable, if it looks like a fair price to you, just book it. Don't wait. These fares, and especially if you have Google Flights and you sort of watch the fares, they're going to go up and down. There is a likelihood that you're going to book something and a week later the price is going to drop, right? That kind of stuff happens. And that's why I say you can always take that credit, the residual credit, the difference between the two, to use it for another flight. So my recommendation for folks that are in that position that you're saying, hey, I need to book something, but if the price goes down, I want to rebook, I would highly recommend booking through either Delta, United, American, or Alaska. Those are US-based airlines, and it's going to be a little bit easier to use that credit. If you book it on Air Canada, you don't necessarily have to go to Canada, but there's going to be some more restrictions with that voucher, and it's going to be a little bit hard to use in some cases. So I'd be more hesitant to book with them, especially if you're willing to rebook. Stick with United, Delta, American, or Alaska. Those credits are very, very easy to use. They'll usually go into an online wallet, and then when you want to travel to LA or Hawaii or whatever it is in the next year, you can very, very easily apply that empty money. And chances are most people on this Zoom are not just going to Calgary in the next year. Chances are you're going somewhere else, whether it's for a wedding, vacation, whatever it is, you could still use that credit.
Wonderful. So any upside to using a travel agent? Of course, the Calgary Convention Planning Committee has got tons of options in terms of travel in and around the convention, but sort of what's your take on using a travel agent to plan this?
Yeah, so my general thought, and this is nothing against travel agents, I personally like to manage my own travel. I like to have ownership of things, and so that's my taste. If you are just booking flights and you are just booking hotels, I think it's pretty easy for you to do on your end. If an adjustment needs to be made, the agent will have to do it. And especially if something happens after hours, there's a cancellation, whatever it is, there's pros and cons. You're going to have to rely on that agent after hours, but also sometimes that agent has a backdoor way of solving something quickly. So there is a little bit of a pro and con to it. But if it's just flights and hotels, I would recommend just deal with it on your own. You're going to likely be able to get the same price, ballpark more or less. Using an agent is helpful if you're wanting to do other stuff. So if you're wanting to add in some tours and I know somebody in the chat mentioned, I think, the Rocky Mountaineer, the train, which I am taking the Thursday after convention. So convention ends Wednesday. I'm taking a bus from Calgary to Banff, along with a few other Rotarians, to catch the Rocky Mountaineer starting that Thursday, because that's the next day that train leaves. That kind of thing, I'd recommend using an agent for. They can help you potentially get some better pricing in there, help with the transfers, and that kind of a thing. But if it's just flights and hotels, I think that's pretty okay for most of you to handle on your own.
So another flight question, looking to fly with American with points from their aviator card, first or business class, how far should I book out?
Book now. Where does that person live? I'll do a live mileage booking.
Ken, where are you calling in from? Or where are you flying from?
Um, well, there's three airports. There's Philly, BWI. I'm out on the eastern shore of Maryland, so I normally like to fly out of Philly, but I can go to BWI or, Dulles if I have to.
Are you near Salisbury or no?
Yeah, I'm about 25 miles out of Salisbury.
Okay. So sometimes those smaller airports, especially Salisbury, the mileage rate drops for whatever reason. Sometimes they try to captivate people out of those markets. But let's search Philly for the moment. We'll see what pops up here. My guess, and this is before this page shows up, I'm guessing around 70 to 80,000 in business one way. American uses a dynamic system, so it's kind of based upon the cost of flights. There's not going to be a ton of cheap options, but again, I might be proven wrong here. Yeah, business is a little bit high. Let's see. Yeah, so the cheapest, okay, so it's much higher. Right now, I just, again, pick some random dates here. That's 117,000 for this set of flights. But one of the cool things about American is that I'll show you.
You're talking about points, right? Not dollars.
Correct.
Yeah.
Miles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned your aviation card. Yeah, sorry, and we're not spending cash here. Nobody wants to do that.
Ken, do you need some smelling salts?
Yeah. You can use their booking calendar here to search a booking the entire month. You can select first or business, main cabin, whatever you want, and it will search across the month so you can see the cheapest fares. Actually, it's telling me there's a 35,000 in there. Maybe I didn't do some. Oh, the 117 was round trip, so it is about 50,000 ish each way. But you can manipulate the booking calendar here to change dates. So for example, this date here, that's 12,500 miles is going to be the lowest. But if I go the next date, that's 42,000. I mentioned before about the schedule changes. Schedule changes are your friend. So if you're considering leaving one date and considering leaving another date, I would suggest this far out, book the cheapest options you see, even if the routing is insane, even if the routing is, Calgary, Chicago, Detroit to DC, right? It's a routing nobody wants to take. They don't want to stop 2 times. Book it, because the chance that American is going to change those flights is very, very high. And then that's a quick call to American. Once that happens, they can put you on much more desirable flights. Essentially, you've got free reign at that point to get on either a nonstop flight or something much better timed.
All right. So any other travel specific questions? I mean, this has been insanely helpful to so many. Any other travel questions? And then we're going to talk a little bit, I think, about some really cool things that are happening with the convention that you might not have heard about, especially if you registered right out of Singapore. So we want to make sure.
Also, there's the train. I don't know. We might have to have a whole different meeting about that, though.
Yeah, folks are welcome to join on that Rocky Mountaineer. That is the departure that I'm on that Thursday is literally the only one you can make coming out of the convention. There is one that leaves Wednesday, but you'd have to miss the closing. That's not worth it, obviously. So the Thursday one is like literally the best option time-wise.
Yeah, I don't think we're allowed to say that out loud on a webinar that says Rotary on it. I don't think
yeah, no, don't miss the closing. That's not even insinuating that. Don't do it. I think the next one after that is like Sunday or something like that. So if you're looking for a pretty well-timed one, that Thursday one seems to be the best option.
We did have like I did want to make sure people let us know maybe what they'd want to hear. So if you have, Dawn's throwing in some stuff in the chat she can talk about, but if you have any suggestions for what you'd like to hear next time and that kind of stuff, put it in the chat or send us an email. We're open. We'll try to find somebody that's smart about whatever it is you guys want to learn about. And also, if you guys have recommendations or suggestions that you want to share with the group, let us know. But Dawn, what did you want to specifically speak to?
Yeah, I think so just know that Renee and I are on monthly calls with the Global Promotions Committee. Amanda went out of Australia, is leading that for us. She serves as part of the organizing committee. And so we get to hear little tips and tricks as they're moving right along. The coolest thing that we think's happened is that the beautiful white hats that you can order your own, and I put the link in the chat. It is $35. It was an ad after Singapore, so you can go back into your registration and add it, or you can go specifically to this site and you can pick it up in Calgary. So it's not anything that they will ship to you, and you have to travel with it. You'll have it there when you get there, which I think is really cool. The main thing is that you get registered, and the next price hike will not be until December, but it's really worthwhile to go ahead and make sure that you're getting the promotions information and that you're already thinking about the hotel, as Jamie talked about earlier. So one of the Hamilton has asked, so what are some amazing things to do in Calgary? He says fun things. So fun looks different to all. So Hamilton, did you have any specific
I think
fun?
that's a suggestion for next time, maybe, that we want to have a thing about it.
Yes, that's my suggestion for next time.
Oh,
Yes.
gotcha. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
because
fun things to do, whether it's the zoo or the places to go, things to see.
maybe
Okay.
we could get someone from the home committee, from the
From
Calgary side of the committee, to join us and bring a presentation and then answer some questions about outside stuff. Would that be a favorable next webinar? So good idea, Hamilton. Thanks. Awesome.
Someone says yes. Yep. So I would be curious if on the call, how many of you are registered for Calgary already? Everybody pretty much planning? Okay. That's awesome.
And I also got my hotel rooms through DRI. I registered in Singapore, and so my hotel room's already booked. So these flights, when Hamilton was talking about doing these early flights and leaving later and stuff like that, I would have to change my hotel reservation.
And you may be able to do that since you already have a reservation. If you wanted to explore that, I wouldn't hesitate reaching out to the hotel themselves and letting them know you have a block. Could you extend it on either end? I mean, it's worth a question, because if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Jamie, do you have any thoughts about that? If someone was now wanting to alter that registration, what would be the best way?
Yeah, so not to dissent with what Renee is saying, but most of the rooms booked through Marriott's or RI, you're going to have to go back through them. The hotels won't touch third-party bookings, so similar to Booking Expedia, and any of those other websites, if they see that, they're kind of hands off and they pass it back to the agency. So likely, if you're going to have to do a date change or something like that, that's going to be up to the RI or whoever their booking partner is. One thing I'll say is, if you can't change the dates, or changing the dates causes the rate to skyrocket, or it's non-refundable or whatever it is, there's no harm obviously in booking another hotel, but there's other places near Calgary. I know a bunch of folks that are going up to Banff for a few days prior, which is a national park that's like an hour away. You can do stuff, outside of where that original hotel is. I'm a crazy person, I'll admit it. I'll hotel hop, and so I'll spend 2 nights here, 2 nights there, 3 nights here, right? If the rates kind of make sense. If I just walk across the street or Uber, a minute down the road, I don't personally have a problem with that. So especially with this kind of high demand event, I think you are going to have to be a little bit flexible. I think that's my word to the wise on that.
Gotcha. So I'm seeing 2 hands raised. So Irma. They kind of went up when we were asking who was registered, so I'm wanting to make sure.
Yeah, I think that might have been the case.
Okay, how about you, Zach? Zachary, did you have a question?
Yeah,
No.
sorry, that was from the question before. I have my room already. Yeah, sorry.
Woo,
No worries. No, we just want to make sure. How about you, Zach?
Same thing.
Perfect. Oh, wow, that's amazing. Sylvia is saying from District 7000, we have 30 persons already registered and booked 25 rooms in one of the hotels through Moretz. That is amazing. It does take some planning, but it is a trip of a lifetime. And certainly the first RI convention that I ever attended was in 2009 in Birmingham, England. And I was able to take my daughter with me, who was then in middle school, and she's actually coming back with her husband to Calgary. So it's going to be a family affair. But you really get inspired to the greater connections through Rotary. And it's just extraordinary to sit in a room with so many people who care about this world, you know? Look at 7620 has already got 49 paid registrants. That's amazing. So we hope tonight has been helpful for you. I think major applause for Jamie. He is now a treasure that we all know about. And so thank you, Renee, for the connection. Jamie,
No,
you
don't use him. I made a
I already
terrible
have to bail
error.
Renee out from earlier, so I'm committed for today.
Oh my gosh, Amelia's like, he's ours. Oh, Hamilton's wanting to know, oh, looks like you got a fundraiser challenge, Renee. How much to pay you not to wear it?
A lot. You're gonna have to pay me so much.
Yeah.
Maybe pay polio.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And we even had Nepal on the call. That's amazing. So anyway, so I think it's 8:30. So we will end the call for tonight. But thank you so much for joining. And we will have another one of these here, probably sometime right before the next rate hike goes up in mid-December. So anyway, so thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.